No.
Stamen. We were talking about the stamen, and if I say that a group of stamens, then what would you call it?
Answer.
A group of stamens.
Um.
It's the highest form, highest, the biggest category.
Androgen.
Androgen. Correct. Now we talked about how the microsporangium has 4-layer walls. Outermost is the epidermis, then comes the endothecium, middle layer, and the tapetum. Now quickly tell me the functions of them.
The functions of I don't know.
See, the first 3 layers, that is epidermis, endothecium, and the middle layer, they are responsible for sort of protecting, supporting, all of these kind of functions. And the tapetum is the only layer that is responsible for nourishment. Clear? Apart from that, the first 3 layers also help in the dehiscence of anther, meaning the bursting of anther, so that the pollen grains could be released. Now see, the cells of the tapetum, they have a dense cytoplasm present. Dense means a thick cytoplasm is present, and more than one nucleus is present in them. They are usually binucleated, meaning 2 nuclei are present in them. Talking about the sporogenous tissue, so the sporogenous tissue, they are present at the center of each microsporangium. They are homogeneous cells, meaning the cells of this particular tissue, they are same. They look like same, they have the same composition, size, and everything. And the sporogenous tissue only undergoes the process of meiosis to form the pollen grain, which is the male gamete of the plant. Okay. So this sporogenous, always remember that the sporogenous tissue undergoes the meiosis. Now talking about microsporogenesis. What is it? See, microspore, you already know it is the male gamete, that is pollen grain. Sporogenesis means the formation. So the formation of pollen grains, which are also known as microspores, they are the male gamete. And from where are they formed? So from the pollen mother cell. Through the meiotic division, we call it as microsporogenesis, this whole entire process. Now, do you know the difference between mitosis and meiosis? See, mitosis is equational division. For example, if there is one cell, it is diploid, meaning 2 sets of chromosomes are present. So when this cell will undergo division, it will form 2 daughter cells and both of them will be diploid, meaning the number of chromosome in the daughter cell and in the mother cell, when it is the same, we call it as mitosis. But when the when the parent cell undergoes meiotic division, meiosis, so it forms 4 daughter cells and each of them have half the number of chromosomes. That is, they are haploid. So since here the number of sets of chromosomes are reducing in half, so we'll call it as reductional division. Clear? So now how does the process of microsporogenesis takes place? So when the anther develops, the cells of the sporogenous tissue, they start to undergo meiotic division, meaning reductional division, right? Now they form a microspore tetrad after that. So what happens? Sporogenous tissue, first they divide by mitosis, which is equational division, and they form microspore mother cell. Then the microspore mother cell undergoes the meiosis. They divide meiotically and form the microspore tetrad. And then from the microspore tetrad, the pollen grains are formed. Now the microspore tetrad, it is a cluster of 4 cells. So see, this is like the first condition is of the microspore mother cell. When it undergoes the meiosis, then 2 cells are formed. That is a dyad. Dyad means 2. Then it goes further, undergoes meiosis and forms 4 cells. So from 2, 4 cells are formed and we call it as microspore tetrad. Now tell me, since the microspore mother cell is undergoing meiosis, so tell me, will the microspore mother cell be haploid or diploid?
Right?
Hmm?
Haploid, and then it will become diploid.
It will be diploid, but then it will become haploid. Because reductional division is happening, reducing thing is happening later on. That's why. Now, inside each microsporangium, there are several thousands of microspores that are formed and stored. And then they are released with the dehiscence of anther. You understand what is the meaning of dehiscence of anther? Dehiscence of anther. Hmm?
I don't know.
See, dehiscence of anther means the bursting of anther. Bursting, why would the anther burst?
So that the pollen grains could reach the female part.
Yes, so that it can be liberated. So that is why that is how the pollen grains, once they are formed, they are released by the dehiscence. Dehiscence means bursting. Bursting, you understand? Now talking about the pollen grain, so it is the male gametophyte, or you can say that it is the male gamete. Many a times it is called as the male gamete, and many a times it is called as the male gametophyte. Now they are usually spherical in shape, sort of circular in shape. Their their diameter is 25 to 50 micrometer. Now the pollen grains have 2 layers of wall: exine, which is the outer layer, and intine, which is the inner layer. So 2 layers are there: exine, outer; intine, inner. Now talking about the outer layer, that is the exine. So it is the very, very hard outer layer, and it is made up of a component called as sporopollenin. And I have made stars over here to denote the fact that this point is extremely important, that the exine, which is the outer cover of the pollen grain, it is made up of sporopollenin. And this sporopollenin is one of the most resistant organic materials, meaning it will not get degraded very easily. So even if the pollen grains are released and, for example, they did not land on the flower and they fell on the ground, will they degrade easily? Yes or no? Hmm?
No.
No, they will not. Why? Because they have this hard outer covering called as the sporopollenin, and this sporopollenin is a very tough material. It can withstand high temperature, strong acid, and even alkali. And no enzyme can degrade the sporopollen. Now, talking about the exine portion of the pollen grain, which is the outer layer, it has aperture present in those areas the sporopollenin is absent. And this aperture means opening. And that opening or that aperture is what we call as the germ pore. Always remember that the germ pore will be present on the exine and not the intine. Now, pollen grains are very well preserved as fossils. Why? Because of the sporopollenin, it makes the pollen grain very hard, very strong, and because of which it can easily be stored as fossils. You know how fossils are formed? Any rough idea? Tell me. Have you ever seen or heard about fossil formation?
No, ma'am.
No.
But
How come that's possible? Fossil, everyone knows about fossils. Not the brand, watch brand fossil,
yeah,
the real fossil. No.
no.
I'll tell you. What happens, I'll tell you quickly, is that when an organism dies or when an organism, mostly dying only. For example, there is an insect. Okay. Now that insect died. So the insect will start getting buried under the soil because they dry and desiccate and they remain in the soil. Now, once the organism is present on the soil, several layers of soil will start depositing on it. Sometimes rock would come and fall on it and it will start accumulating. Now, after thousands and thousands of years, then when the people would take the rock, it will look like the image, or you can say the outline of that particular insect will be there. That is a fossil. Okay, so the pollen grains can also be preserved in the form of fossils because they cannot be degraded easily because of sporopollen. Clear? Now talking about the inner wall, which is called as intine. Now this is a very thin and continuous wall. Remember what about exine? Is it thin?
It is thick.
It's thick. Is it continuous?
No,
Then why is it not continuous?
because it cannot be degraded easily.
No, that's true. My question is, continuous means this, right?
Yes.
Continuously the layer is not present. So why is the layer not continuously present?
Mm,
Think.
mm, because it has poropollen.
Sporopollen is what the layer is made up of. But then in the exine, there are certain places where sporopollen is absent. And
Okay.
that is what we call as the germ pore, this one, the
Yes.
aperture. That
Yes.
is why we can't say that it is continuous. It is stopping. But when we talk about intine, so it is thin and it is continuous. It does not have interruptions anywhere.
Okay.
Now, intine is made up of cellulose and pectin. Clear? The
Yes.
cytoplasm of the pollen grain is surrounded by the plasma membrane, just like how normally plasma membrane is present. Now, tell me one thing. Do you know what a cell wall is?
Yes. The inner layer.
Cell wall?
The layer between intine and exine.
No, not in this case. Normally, the cell wall.
Made up of it's made up of cells.
Yeah, but cell wall is the external protective layer. Do you know what the plant cell wall is made up of?
Mm. No.
It is made up of cellulose. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
same way the intine is also made up of cellulose, just like that. Now talking about the structure of a mature pollen grain. The structure of the mature pollen grain, it contains two cells, meaning inside now. We are going inside. So it has a vegetative cell, which we can also call as the tube cell, and it has the generative cell. Now, if you look at this picture, see this. The outermost layer, what will it be called as?
Time.
Hmm?
Time.
Exine. And the innermost layer?
Time.
Intine. Then this larger cell that you're seeing, this part, this is the vegetative cell or the tube cell. And then the smaller cell that you're seeing, this part, the smaller cell is the generative cell. Clear? Now, if you look at the vegetative cell and the generative cell, what is the difference in between them? If you look at the picture,
The generative cell is small.
that's true. Apart from that,
It has the pollen grain is smaller, or the cell is smaller.
what is this? This structure?
Pollen grain.
No. This whole thing is pollen grain. Inside the pollen grain, this thing is the nucleus of it.
Nucleus.
So when we talk about the nucleus of the vegetative cell, it is present at the side area. But in the generative cell, it is present in the center. Clear? So central nucleus. Any doubts?
No.
You're understanding the thing, right? Okay. Have you ever had taken any tuitions for biology before? Never?
I didn't even attend because I was in India.
You didn't even attend?
Oh, the normal school classes.
In 11th also?
No, in 11th I did, but
Hmm.
I was not regular because I went to India that time also. So
Okay. And in India, where do you live?
Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Okay. So like your 11th biology base is not that clear, is it?
No. Yes.
I can see that. Okay, it's okay. We'll learn slowly, but it's your duty to learn. I can
Yes.
teach you, I'm ready to teach you, but you have to learn. Okay. Now, so what is the structure that I've just explained to you?
Grain.
Pollen grain. What is the outer layer of the pollen grain called as?
Line.
Exine. It is made up of?
Thick. Thick.
Yeah, it is thick and it is
And
made up of?
nucleus.
The layer is made up of?
The layer is made up of
Yeah, it is a very thick, resistant substance.
sporopollen.
Sporopollen. Okay. Is the exine, the outer layer, continuous or discontinuous?
Continuous.
Discontinuous. Why?
Because there are gaps.
What are those gaps called as?
Uh,
Germ pore. Pore, a hole. Okay. Imagine it as a hole. Okay. What is the inner layer of the pollen grain called as?
intine.
Intine. What is it made up of?
Uh, thin layer, and it is made up of nucleus.
Nucleus does not do anything with the layer. Just like how sporopollen is what the exine is made up of. So what is the intine made up of?
Germ cells. No.
Cellulose and pectin.
Respected.
Cellulose and pectin. See, when you're in the class, try to learn in the class. While I'm teaching, try to learn it. Whatever I say, you repeat it in your mind and try to learn it, okay? Because that will benefit you a lot. Now, what are the two types of cells that are found inside the pollen grain?
Tube cell and generative cell.
Very good. What is the other name for tube cell?
Vegetative cell.
Vegetative cell. Okay, which one is bigger, vegetative or tube cell?
Vegetative.
Okay. What is one more difference between them?
That it is in the tube cells are in side and the generative cells are in the middle.
The cell is in the middle.
Sorry, no. The nucleus is in the center.
The
Nucleus is in the center.
nucleus. So talk in terms of nucleus and always remember, I'll tell you just quickly, brief thing. If this is a cell, okay,
Yes.
the cell has an outer layer which is very protective layer and we call that outer layer as cell wall. Inner layer like this one is the cell wall which is outermost layer. This is absent in all the animals. It's only present in plants, bacteria, lower organisms, but not the animals. Inside the cell wall is the plasma membrane. Okay? Plasma membrane. Now, this is the cell. So, the cell has the first layer called as plasma membrane. Outer to the plasma membrane is the cell wall. Now, inside the cell, there is cytoplasm. Okay? Cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasm, there is a nucleus. Okay? And this is how the basic structure of cell is like. Clear? Now, this cell wall is made up of different things in different organisms. Bacteria, plants, it has different composition. Clear? Cell is clear? This is like a very tiny intro. Now talking about the vegetative cell. So the vegetative cell or the tube cell, it is the bigger cell and it has abundant food reserve. Okay, it has a lot of stored food. It has a large, irregularly shaped nucleus. The nucleus is bigger in size as you can see in the picture, but it is irregular. Okay. Coming on to the generative cell. So the generative cell is a small cell and it floats in the cytoplasm of the vegetative cell. Imagine if this is the vegetative cell, so in it only is the generative cell. That is why we say that the generative cell floats in the cytoplasm of the vegetative cell. And it has a dense cytoplasm and a central nucleus, meaning nucleus is center in position. Clear? So when we talk about, right now we saw the pollen grain, right? So if I say, how many cells are present in the pollen grain, what would you tell me? Number of cells?
Multiple cells.
What is the number?
Number 23.
No. Not that. I'm not talking about chromosomes.
Okay.
I'm saying the pollen grain that you just saw. It had two cells. What are
Yeah.
the two cells?
Vegetative cell and the generative cell.
So how many of them are there?
Two cells.
Two. Always remember that inside the pollen grain, two cells are there. Okay. Now see wherever in my notes, wherever you see stars, just imagine that it is very important. That is why ma'am has put stars. So when we talk about the angiosperms, do you know what angiosperms are?
Yeah, the main part of the male. It is the main part of the male.
No, dear. Not the main part. Angiosperm is a group of plants or flowers that not flowers. They are the group of plants that have flowers.
Okay.
They are the highest group of plants. So angiosperm, just like how gymnosperm, angiosperm, these are there. So angiosperms, like in the 60% of angiosperms, the pollen grains are shed at two cell stage. Meaning whenever the pollen grain is liberated or spread. So it is shed in two cell stage. Meaning what cells will be present in this pollen grain?
Vegetative cell and generative cell.
Now, in the remaining 40%, other than the gymnosperms, what happens? That the generative cell, it starts dividing. Remember the smaller cell? It starts dividing and it gives rise to two male gametes. And this one is called as three cell stage. In this, what happens? See this one. The vegetative cell is there and the generative cell, it divided into two. And it became the male gamete. Clear? So that is three cell stage. Now there are three cells. Do you see? One,
Yes.
2, and 3. Three cells. Normally, when we draw the pollen grain, how many cells? 1 and 2. Isn't it? This is clear?
Yes.
Now, the pollen grains of many species, they cause allergy. Have you ever seen a person, if you give them flowers, they start sneezing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have allergy to pollen grains. That is why they start sneezing. Okay. And in some people, it can cause severe allergy, very serious allergy. And also bronchial afflictions, meaning difficulty in breathing. And mainly for those people that have respiratory disorder like asthma, bronchitis. So they will be very troubled by the pollen. Clear? Then comes the Parthene. Now tell me, the pollen grain is capable of causing which type of problem?
Asthma and
No,
breathing problems.
breathing problems. In the people that already have asthma. For example, if I do not have asthma and if you give me a flower, I'll smell it. Will I start sneezing? No, I'll never start sneezing. But let's just say there is a person who has asthma, and then you give them a flower, and then they smelled it and they started sneezing. So means that they have some sort of breathing disorder, and because of that, they are developing an allergy for the pollen. Clear? Then comes, and see, wherever you have doubts, ask me. Okay, if you did not understand anything, ask me. I'll explain it again and again until you learn. Getting my point? I am here. I don't care. I am being very honest. Now you are my student, right? So I don't care how much you know before, right? I don't care about your past in subject. I don't care about that. But I know one thing, that now you are my student and you are supposed to learn anything that I say in the class. Getting my
Okay.
point? All of the things that are written in my notes, it should be on the tip of your tongue, that whenever I ask, you should be able to answer. Okay, since this is, I think it's your second class or a third class with me, right? Second or third. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Now from the fourth class on, you know what to do?
By heart.
By heart. Everything, because I'm going to ask. Okay? And the more you learn, the better you'll understand and the better you'll write in the examination. Because ultimately you have to write in the examination, isn't it? Yes. And one more thing, for learning, you have to ask questions. If you did not understand, ask me. It can be, I am giving you the liberty. You can ask me like a very big, silly question also. I'll answer that. I'll not make fun of you. Okay? But you have to be active in the class. Now, pollen allergy, you understood?
Yes.
And remember that this doesn't happen in everyone. In
Yeah.
some people, especially those
What?
people that already have disorders like asthma and bronchitis. Do you know the meaning of chronic?
Mm, no.
No? See, chronic disease or chronic disorder is that disorder that they have from a long period of time. Like for asthmatic people, they have asthma for really long, isn't it? You do not develop asthma quickly. It has been there for a while. That is why. Just like how if we develop cough and cold, is that chronic or not? Cough and cold. No, it's not chronic. But cancer, is it chronic or not?
Yeah, chronic.
Yes, chronic. Very good. And the ones that we develop quickly, they are known as acute. Okay, but that's not for this chapter. Now talking about a very special case, Parthenium. Parthenium is a scientific name. That is why I've underlined it. Okay. So Parthenium, and remember, whenever you write any like scientific name, always underline it. Always. Now, Parthenium is the scientific name of a carrot grass. Okay. Now, you know that wheat was imported to India. It came from the other country. So, once the wheat was imported, along with that, Parthenium plant also came to India, mixed with the wheat plant. And no one knew that it was a contaminant, meaning it was something undesirable. Okay. So, and apart from that, yes, I wanted to ask one more thing. Apart from English, which language do you speak?
Urdu, Hindi.
You understand Urdu, Hindi,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, great. So, Parthenium grass came as a contaminant, meaning wheat plant when it came to India. Normally, for example, if 10 kgs of wheat were coming to India, so the 10 kgs of pure wheat had to come. But now the Parthenium, let's just say one plant or two plants or three plants of Parthenium in 100 plants of wheat also came. Okay. So now what happens is that these Parthenium, they started growing a lot.
Okay.
And it is a major pollen allergy causer. It causes pollen allergy in many people. So Parthenium is very important to remember. Apart from that, there are some other plants or like plants, and their pollen also causes allergy, such as Amaranthus and Chenopodium. These are the names of the plants, scientific names of the plants, whose pollen causes allergy, pollen grain. If I give you, like for example, Parthenium pollen grains causes pollen allergy. But what if I pluck a leaf and give it to the person? Will it cause allergy?
No.
No. Only the pollen. Clear? Now remember that the pollen grains are rich in nutrients. They are rich in proteins. Okay, they have a lot of protein. So many times what happens is that they are used as food supplements. Meaning some athletes, they eat pollen. Okay, so that they can have more energy. Pollen grain is available in the form of food supplements like tablets, syrups. That you might have seen people taking tablets of vitamins, isn't it? Vitamins and so many things people take tablets of. Same way, protein tablets of pollen grains are also there, and it increases the performance in the case of athletes. We do not take it, we don't need it. But for those people that need to run, that need to do a lot of exercise, all of that, so they need a lot of pollen for energy. And even for race horses, even race horses have to run for a long period of time, so they also need pollen consumption. Clear? Then comes pollen viability. Do you understand the meaning of viability?
No.
Do you understand the meaning of validity?
Valid for something, for we have to take validation.
Mm, you recharge your SIM, you recharge your mobile phones, right? So when the recharge comes to an end by the end of the month, they say that the validity of the recharge is over, right? Validity means the period for which it will work and then it will not work. If our recharge gets over, are we able to send messages or call? No, right? Let's talk in terms of India. I don't know where you live in the country outside India. I don't know how it happens there, but in India, normally what happens? Our phone SIMs are there. We have to get it recharged and then only we can talk on call, isn't it? Yeah. Where do you live, by the way?
I live in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh.
Okay, you live in Riyadh. Okay. So in India, you've been here, you've lived here, so you know how the SIM cards and everything work, right? So yes. So viability is just like validity.
Okay.
Okay. Now if you only imagine and tell me, if I say that pollen has a viability, then what does it mean?
That it will stop working
Yeah, when?
when the time
Hmm. When the time reaches, or maybe for a certain period of time only it will work. We can't recharge pollen, isn't it?
can
Hmm.
recharge.
Yes. So pollen, once they are shed, meaning once they are released into the environment, they have to land on the female part, or else they will lose the viability. Viability can also mean as effectiveness.
Okay.
I'll write validity so that you can understand. Don't write validity in exam. This is just for your understanding. Now, the time period for which the pollen grains remain viable for variable is variable for different species. Now, it varies from one species to another. For example, there is a rose plant. So maybe rose pollen can stay for some months. Then there are some pollens that are only alive for one day. It varies from plant to plant. Okay. Apart from that, it also depends on the temperature, humidity. Maybe if the temperature is very high, the pollen will not be viable. But then there will be some pollens that work at high temperature. Getting my point? So pollen viability in some cereal plants such as rice and wheat, it's only 30 minutes. Imagine, once the pollen grains are released, within 30 minutes they have to land on the female part, or else they will not be viable after 30 minutes. So that's it. But for the members of the family Rosaceae, Leguminosae, these are the names of the families. Okay, plant families.
Okay.
Rosaceae is the rose family. Leguminosae is the legume family, and Solanaceae is the potato family. So for them, the pollen grain is viable for months. So once they are released, they will be effective for months. Clear? Any doubts up until
No.
now? Okay. Then comes the last thing in the male part, that is cryopreservation. Now, if for example, I I make new types of plants. Okay. So for making plants, I would require pollen grains. Now I want to test that how that plant will grow in different areas. So I live in India. So maybe I want to check whether an Indian variety of a plant would grow in Riyadh. So I'll come to Riyadh. Okay. Maybe I'll stay at your home. So I'll come to Riyadh, and then what will happen? If I would want to carry the pollen grain from India to Riyadh, do you think the pollen grain will be viable for that period of time?
Some might be.
Some might not. Right. So I can preserve it, isn't it? And then carry it to Riyadh so that if I want, I can use it whenever I want. Right? So cryopreservation is that method of storage of pollen. So it is the method wherein the storage of pollen for years and years can happen. Okay, we can like I come to Riyadh and I don't want to do the experiment. So I relaxed for 1 year and then I wanted to do the experiment. So I have my preserved pollen grains, isn't it? So now how do I preserve it? Collect the pollen grains and put them in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees Celsius. Now, such stored pollen can be used as pollen banks. Just like how we have seed banks and normal money banks, like the banks that we have, why are they there? Our money is safe in that. Whenever we want an X amount of money, we withdraw it and then we use it. Same way, the pollen banks would have stored pollen grains. So whenever we need the pollen grains, so we will withdraw it and use it. So this technique of cryopreservation is called the storage of pollen grains. Two things to remember: like in what chemical it is stored. So it is stored in the liquid nitrogen, and at what temperature? So minus 196 degrees Celsius. Clear? And it is used in crop breeding programs, meaning whenever I want to create a plant that is a crop breeding that I am doing artificially, it's not natural. So in that, I can get these pollen grains whenever I want. Clear? Any doubts?
No.
Okay. Tell me now, let us quickly recap. Tell me the process of microsporogenesis. Which kind of division takes place in it?
Meiotic.
Meiotic. Very good. Yes. And during the process of meiosis, diploid to haploid or haploid to diploid cells are?
Diploid to haploid.
Very good. Exactly. Okay. If I say microspore tetrad, how many cells are there?
4.
And if I say microspore dyad, how many cells are there?
2.
2. Correct. Now talking about the pollen grain. Pollen grain is what? What would you call pollen grain?
It is
Like,
the
hmm,
uh,
what is that?
male reproductive organ.
No.
No, male
Gamete.
cells.
Gamete. Gamete. Organ is the stamen.
Yes.
Right? The gamete, just like how in human sperms are there, right? The male gamete. Same way in the plants, pollen grain is the sperm of the plant. Okay. Now, if I say pollen grain has how many layers?
It has 2 layers.
Outer layer is called as?
Exine.
Hmm?
Exine
It is made up of?
is made up of thick layer. It is the thickest layer. It is made up of
What is
sporo
that? Hmm.
sporopollenin.
Correct. Sporopollenin. And why is sporopollenin so special?
Because it is non-continuous.
No, the layer is non-continuous. But why is the material sporopollenin so special?
It provides nucleus. Uh,
Talking about sporopollenin.
um,
You know it. Try to recall. You know it. Why is sporopollenin special? Because it is very resistant. It is a very tough thing, right? Okay, the inner layer of the pollen grain is called as intine. What is it made up of?
Is made up of cellulose.
And pectin. Okay. All right. In 60% of the angiosperms, the pollen grains are shared at which cell stage?
It is shared at vegetative cell stage.
Two cell stage, meaning that has vegetative cell and generative cell. In the rest, 40%, what happens?
The generative cell divides into two more cells, with
Hmm.
one known as germ cell,
Male
germ
gap.
male gametes.
So all in all, there are three cells, right? Okay, very good. Which plant came as a contaminant with wheat?
Grass,
Carrot grass, Parthenia, right? Do you remember the names of two other plants that causes pollen allergy?
rose,
No, no, no.
uh,
Amaranthus and Chenophotum. That is okay if you don't remember. It's a scientific name. It takes a long period of time to remember. So very good. What do you mean by pollen viability?
that the pollen grains do not have, they only live for the lifetime. Like, for example, some live for 1 week, some for 1 month.
Correct. Very good. Okay. Now tell me, when I want to store the pollen, what is that method called as?
Cry,
Hmm? Cryo
Cryopollen,
preservation.
cry-
Cryopreservation. In which chemical do I do this?
nitrogen
Liquid nitrogen. And at which temperature?
6 degrees Celsius, minus 1
190, minus
Celsius.
196 Celsius. Okay, very nice. All right, now you can note it down. What is the last thing that you've written?
Uh, Structure of microsporangium till taptum. After this, yeah.
Okay, you can draw this also, the diagram. This you've drawn.
No.
Okay, draw this also. And then, okay, you can switch off your video. Tell me once you're done, I'll scroll it for you. Okay.
Done, ma'am. 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 I'm done. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
Okay, any doubts up until now?
No, ma'am.
Okay.